Hello.
Welcome back.
This feels different.
Yes.
Feels
looks a little different too.
I know. I feel like we're fancy now.
Something to crow about.
It is definitely something to crow about. We are in downtown Youngstown, still in Mahoning County,
yes,
at Youngstown Studios. So thank you to them for being our host and for having us. Their setup is amazing, and we feel like we've just kind of leveled up. And we have a confession to make.
This is round 2.
With our guest today.
We have a great conversation, yeah.
So not only is he a terrific human in general before all of this, but we actually did this podcast in our old space. And that's when we realized that we did not have the proper equipment to host guests. So our guest today was kind enough to not only come to downtown Youngstown, but to essentially record the podcast again.
Make a return.
In a whole new format, so it's a better experience for you guys, our viewers and listeners.
Yes.
So without further ado, we're going to be down here from now on, and we love it.
Yeah.
It's going to be great, and we hope you love it too, so let us know. But let's introduce our guest.
Yes, Mr. Tim Parks, the president of the Ohio Giant Pumpkin Growers Association.
Ohio Valley Giant Pumpkin Growers Association.
Very good. The Ohio Valley Pumpkin.
So I'll first get this.
No, you still didn't get it right.
So anyhow,
a man who needs no introduction.
Yeah. Well, thank you. So I guess I'm honored because I'm the last and the first.
Yeah, you are.
Yes.
Well, we'll see how this goes. You know,
I think it's
the last shot was pretty had a lot of spontaneity, but I'm sure it'll work out just fine.
Well, Tim, I don't remember what happened yesterday, so I'm going to think that it's going to feel pretty fresh today.
All right, great. So I'm Tim Parks, Ohio Valley Giant Pumpkin Growers,
and
owner of Parks Garden Center, Canfield, Ohio. Longtime pumpkin grower.
Longtime fair fanatic.
Longtime fair fanatic. Yeah, you could say that.
Too.
Yeah,
we'll take it.
You know, everybody looks at the fair differently. You know what, and that's the great thing about the fair because it has so much to offer, and you can identify. Different people identify differently.
Yeah, and I think you get to see it through different eyes.
Yes, exactly. So.
And conversations like this help us see things differently, for sure.
But my history at the fair is, I guess you want to talk about history?
Yeah, let's talk about history, and let's go back a second because this is the fair is generational, and like we like to talk about stories and fair families, and the fair was special to your dad, particularly the Western Reserve Village, and I think that the Parks Garden Center touch can be seen around the village. Is that safe to say? I
can't take credit for that, and I don't think my dad would want to take credit for that. But at the same time, we've been active at the village, and there's a couple mementos in the village on display now that we're proud to have there that represent my dad. But
can you tell us what those are? Because I don't know what they
are. So they were kind enough. I had a stone watering trough, and my dad was like somewhat artistic, and when we were growing our business, he loved stonework, antique troughs, sinks, whatever, just beautiful sandstone. He started doing some stonework in the winter months and had my brother and I involved a little bit, and we were actually making like handmade stone bird baths, chiseling them out. And then we would sell them, do them in the winter and sell them in the spring, whatever. And at one point, he had this massive barnstone that he turned into a watering trough. And it was on display at the garden center forever. And, everything in time moves along.
Sure.
And my dad moved along from this world to a better place. But one of the things he left behind was that trough. So.
Wait, so your dad... that was part of the cleanup. That's like cleaning out the attic, so to speak. You moved that trough right out of there.
Well, I knew it was on display at the garden center, and I knew I might not be at the garden center forever. And I thought a better place for that in a tribute to him would be in the Western Reserve Village.
Absolutely.
So it's at the fairgrounds in the Western Reserve Village, and we created a bed there, and it's got a nice plaque on the end of it. And it's kind of cute because now talked fair and generational, etc. There's pictures floating around the family that of my great nieces and nephews as young children sitting in the trough at the fair that my dad carved.
Oh, that's
so,
cool.
That's
isn't that
sweet.
kind of brings some really
That
great
is.
stuff about the fair?
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to keep an eye
Yeah.
out for it.
Yeah, I need
Yeah.
to go find
Go
it.
find it.
So we have some history at the fair, and I was fortunate enough. I was a young guy, but my dad knew Gibby James, a longtime board member at the fair and
Sure.
supporter, and that's I think how he kind of got involved with the Western Reserve Village was through Gibby James. But I don't know that that's 100% factual, but I remember my dad and Mr. James going back and forth about what they were doing and whatever. So.
That's cool.
Yeah, so that's got a lot of history there, and then of course the pumpkin barn. We always at the garden center. We'll be coming up on 50 years here shortly,
Can't believe
and
that.
I can't believe it
That's
either.
truly a milestone.
Yeah, thank you. And we always grew. It was always my dad's family was from the country, and he was always growing something somewhere. And so when we started the retail, we started growing a lot of our own pumpkins, Indian corn stalks, all that. And so we kind of, and we do a lot of mums, of course, as you know. But he embraced that whole fall thing. Well, it was a natural dovetail. And he got to know Homer Schaefer and helped out Homer a little bit at the building when they were done at the end of the fair. My dad would do some sponsorship up there occasionally. They'd auction off the biggest pumpkin at the fair, and he'd buy the pumpkin and bring the pumpkin back to the garden center and put it on display. With the fair being a Labor Day event, you're just starting into fall.
Well,
okay?
yeah, that was something that I learned, on round one of the podcast was that the pumpkin season actually is really, the fair kind of hurts it. So people will choose which ones they exhibit at the fair.
Yeah.
Right, a lot of growth
competition.
happens in September.
Yes, yeah, there's a lot of time left after Labor Day. So, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. But so he had involvement there, and then I kind of naturally dovetailed right in behind him, and I've had a great experience. And me personally, I grew up in 4-H, showed lambs, active, with the club there. And so we've got our history as a family with the fair. My brother's children, they all showed sheep at the fair, and I think they're still active with the sheep barn up there now. So it's
Lauren told me a very terrifying story about when she had to show her carcass lamb, which we'll spare the listeners. Anyone can Google up what's involved with the carcass lamb showing. But she said she was like 8 years old and had to witness the whole thing, and it was very traumatic.
part of life.
I mean, she's
a
older
sweetheart.
than 8 now, and it still very much affects her. So
No, those kids all worked real hard and showed sheep up there for years. So yeah, it's and I look around at all the people that I know within the community after all these years, and you could just know that this person did that at the fair, and this person, there goes so and so by the gardens, and they're up there taking their tractors up to the tractor show again this year. Or this person's that or that, So, the fair is a big part of the community.
it 100% is. It's a big part of lots of communities. So
Yes.
just from your little corner over there in the Greenford and to all of Mahoning County that it touches, and even different parts going into Pennsylvania, West Virginia.
Telling stories.
Yeah.
They always used to say in the fall, people would ask my dad when we were first starting out. He said, that's probably really great. You guys are located 3 miles from the store. You probably get a lot of business from the fair, And my dad would tell people, he says, no. He said, because when those people are going to the fair, they're so excited to get there, they won't stop. And when they're on their way home, they're too tired to stop and don't have any more money. So we're kind of dead during the fair.
I could see that.
But not so much anymore, actually. I think the fair kicks off the fall season.
I do.
And it gets
I would agree
people
with
in
that.
the spirit, and it's really kind of funny. We talk about the giant pumpkins. I've had a lot of my friends over the years come to town just to see the way off at the garden center. Okay.
And that happens after the fair.
So it's like the second Saturday in October. So anywhere between 5 and 6 weeks after the fair.
Yeah.
So they come to our community from New England, and that's kind of like the hotbed of fall, and the leaves, etc. And some of the comments I get from them is, I can't believe it when we come here. Everybody's house is decorated, their yards are mowed and it really says something about the community.
Oh, that's really nice.
And you would think, and I've been up there in the fall, and just where some of these people live, and it really isn't the same. I mean, this community really embraces
Do you think
fall.
they take fall for granted?
Maybe so.
Where we
Yeah.
get the different seasons, so
Yeah,
we
maybe so.
Love fall
Yeah.
when it's here, yeah.
But so anyhow,
That's a nice
But the
story.
root of all this business, of course, is the pumpkin barn, right?
pun intended.
No pun intended. Yeah. So kind of funny, that pumpkin barn up there. I think in 1965 is when it, really started rolling or got its initial start. Let's put it that way. And that's been it was going along really good, and it's got such a deep history that I run into people all the time, and that's the first thing they tell me is, we go to the Canfield Fair, but that pumpkin barn's unbelievable.
The pumpkin barn won the March Madness this year.
It did. It won. We do a poll every
We had
year.
a bracket
Don't look
challenge.
surprised because you follow us on social media and are
Yeah,
really dialed
yeah.
into what the marketing
You saw
team
I
does.
turned my phone off right before we started.
But yes, the pumpkin barn was the favorite attraction at the fair this year.
So I alluded to that in our pre-podcast
Yes.
that I thought it was the number one building on the grounds, but it was voted as such. So that's great.
Yes.
Good news. But the funny one, I mean, I can't. It's hard for me to go anywhere. The first thing people say is, hey, what's going on at the pumpkin barn? Okay. I went to my doctor for a checkup, and the first thing he walks in the room and says, I went to the fair this year. The pumpkin barn was gone. I said, well, it's still there. They just moved it back a little bit.
Right.
But, that old building kind of, I don't want to say outgrew its time, but I guess change is good.
Yeah.
Because whenever your building is too small for what you're doing, that means you're doing something
Yeah,
right.
you're
gonna need a bigger boat.
You're going to need a bigger boat. So the new building's great up there now, but that old building had a lot of history and a lot of memories. And, again, that's part of the fair. But when we first started going, I didn't actually show a pumpkin there till like 1982, I think it was. But, these guys that I got to know through showing pumpkins at the fair have been showing since like the early days in the 60s. Alan Gibson from Winona, Dick Baird from Baird Brother Lumber, of course the Lanterman family. I mean, Dale and Linda are still out there working the pumpkins, setting everything up. Linda's, I think, the barn superintendent, does a wonderful job. And, that Lanterman family has, that fair's been important to them. There was, I think, 12 siblings in that family. And one of them was one of the founding charter members of the Ohio Valley Giant Pumpkin Growers. That would be Jack Lanterman. Still with us and not actively growing, but his kids are. So it's generational. They're also. So I got to know all those guys.
Yeah.
And I got some really great mentoring. And I got to hear a lot of great stories.
Well, we're going to get some tips today on how to grow the pumpkins, right? Or about how the growing started.
So the biggest question we get on a regular basis is, we go up and work in the pumpkin barn. So when folks come in, they have a question. It's really great that the fair networks with the Ohio Valley Giant Pumpkin Growers, because we have volunteer members that go in there and will work the booth, and they'll sell a few seeds or whatever and try to promote the hobby. But they can get accurate information. So that's
great resources.
Yeah, so that's just a great give and take between the fair and the fair board and the growers, and it helps the community. That's one of those win-win-win-win-win deals.
Correct.
Okay.
And there's a lot of relationships like that across the fairgrounds that I don't think people realize. It sort of just happens, and it happens so naturally that you don't even know it's happening.
Yep.
Talked about,
so,
right.
so it's a great thing. But with that said, there was times previous to the current times where maybe it was, let's face it, those guys, they're competitive. And maybe even competitive to a fault, myself included. Okay. But, we all grew and showed there, and it was like, I like to tell the story because you got to pay tribute when you see those weights on the board up there of how they've escalated. And I think if you would go up to the board and you'll see there was a pumpkin, and I believe it was in 1992, and it was raised by Ron Moffat in Salem, Ohio. Up until that point, they all talked a little bit, but nobody was emptying out the kitchen cupboard. Okay. So Ron And the story goes, Jerry Rose, who's one of the longtime growers and winners of the multiple time winner of the show, Jerry had a really great pumpkin that year. And a really great pumpkin in 1992 was 300 pounds.
Right.
Well, Ronnie came out from nowhere. Nobody even knew Ron. And he showed up at the fair, and Jerry had been calling the fair saying, "I'm bringing down the biggest pumpkin I've ever had. It's huge. I'm and he was greasing the wheel." Well, Ronnie shows up, and he's got a pumpkin, 544 pounds, and I mean just crushed him. Okay, so, and he'll tell you to this day. He said, "I remember that like it was yesterday." He said, "I was crushed."
Slapped him in the face, yeah.
So, anyhow, but the biggest factor in all of that was that Ron Moffat and his wife Kathy were totally free with the information. He would tell you every single thing he did. He's who really got me, I don't want to say turned back on,
but
but turned back on to the hobby. Because I grew in 82, but then I didn't grow for a little while. You know, I was in the middle of trying to, be married and all that business. But Ron really turned me back onto it, and I give him all the credit in the world because he mentored me the next year. And I grew when I was 579 pounds. Of course,
so he's like
his comment was, you're a quick study, okay? Because I beat him the next year. But we had a lot of fun back and forth.
Yeah.
But
you had a really good teacher.
We did have a great teacher, and that opened up everything. And then the guys started understanding. He led the way. He shared. And then when he shared, they shared.
They felt comfortable.
And then all of a sudden,
we're only going to make ourselves better when we help each other out.
And that was how the club got started, basically, because I think it was 1995 or 96. There was a way off, not the Circleville pumpkin way off, but somebody else had a way off down by Circleville, and it was a greenhouse operation. Rhodes, I believe it was Rhodes was the name. And we went down there to see it and participate because the guy still had a few pumpkins and it was post-fair time, as we alluded to earlier. These things are still growing and will grow well into September and part of October.
And it's almost like the stock market in that as you get older, the gains really compound.
Yes.
Those last 10 or 15 days.
Well, part of what changed, too, for your understanding of it, is earlier we didn't know how to manage diseases and cultural issues as well. But as we got further along...
And when you say cultural issues...
So, maybe we weren't covering the pumpkins and managing temperature as well. All this cultural stuff you do to create a good environment, okay? So as we got along and we started sharing more, we figured out, well, if you keep the pumpkin above X amount of degrees at night, you'll keep it going. You don't want to let it chill down. Once it chills down, so if they're growing like 10 pounds a day and you get a 32-degree night and it's out there and it core chills down, it doesn't go back up to 10. It might only go back up to 6 when it warms up.
So do you have different weights of blankets? Like we've got like a quilt, and then we've got a down comforter.
And I've got guys that'll take and put, if you drive around the community now, you'll see the strawberry fields or the sweet corn fields will be covered with like a white fabric. That's a frost protection blanket. So we have people that'll put those frost protection blankets over the whole plant and keep it actively growing. Okay, so that way they don't lose those pounds. Well, in the years past, we were almost pretty much done at fair time because they were shutting down because we didn't know what we were doing.
Okay.
So then as we started to learn, we started growing them longer and then getting that weight. So anyhow, fast forward, we went to Circleville, and 3 of the 6 growers or 4 of the 8 growers that were there that day were from the Canfield area. And I looked at everybody and said, why are we doing this? We should be having our own way off at home.
Right.
Late in October. So I as Tim Parks Garden Center, applied to the Great Pumpkin Commonwealth, which is the main organization in the world.
Feels like it should be run by Charlie Brown.
Yes. That should be on the logo.
Right.
They'll probably be infringement. You would
That's
know
all
about-
right.
You would know about that.
I don't copyright infringe things.
So we applied, and then we received the way off rights, and that's how the way off got started. But probably one of the most critical things I did, I think, organizationally, was I got with 4 other guys in the pumpkin community and said, this is more than a one-man show. If we're going to do this thing right, it's going to take a team. So that was Jack Lannerman, Dick Baird, Ronnie Moffett, Alan Gibson, and myself. And we founded the club at our dining room table, and all we wanted to do was have this way off and keep it simple and just promote growing. Well, once we started the way off, it was like people
what year
were
was
calling
that?
up. That was like 95, 96.
Okay,
So people were calling up and saying, you know, where do I send my dues? We heard about your club. When's the newsletter coming out? When's this going to happen? When's that? And it was like, we're all...
Wait a second, guys.
Yeah.
This sounds like a job.
But,
Yeah.
But it turned out Alan Gibson was the secretary-treasurer. You know, he stepped into those roles, and, you know, we all kind of did our part, but he was the guy writing the newsletters, you know, and all this kind of a thing. And you know, we kind of did that pumpkin club the Ohio way, or the Midwest way, or the flyover states way, where we, you know, your word's your bond.
Right.
There's tale of people that set up way offs years ago in other states, and everybody go to the way off, and you're supposed to get $1,000 for first prize, and this much for second, and the way off would be over, and they would never mail the checks, okay, because funding fell through or whatever.
Nonsense.
So we don't play like that.
Yeah.
So we all said to each other, we said we didn't care what happened. If, you know, we were going to fund this thing one way or the other, and if you tell somebody they're going to get a prize for whatever, you're given the prize. That's just the way it is here.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's what we did, and the club took off and became very successful. Some of the things they did early was really great. They started working with, again, community. The county extension office, Eric Draper, and he found out what we were doing, and we were looking for a place. We knew we had to have more growers, so we were looking for a place to hold a seminar, and the county let us have the office up there in Canfield.
And you're still doing that today, correct?
We still do it today, but we did the first seminars we did, and we put a lot of work into it. It was A to Z. It should have been like It should have been like vegetable growing 101, but it was Wednesday nights from 6:30 to 8:30 for 3 weeks straight, 3 Wednesdays straight, and we went through everything, and we had the attendance was unbelievable, and Eric helped out, and we got some people involved, and it worked out super. But it ended up, we got it pared down. We still do it annually. We do it at the Garden Center now. And we got it pared down to maybe like 3 hours. And I told them we should really just rename the whole thing, you know, like competitive gardening. Because that's what it is. You know, I get the best tomato. You know, there's people in the world right now that are growing tomatoes out west that are part of our organization. 15 pounds on a tomato.
I feel like it would be
Okay.
mealy.
Oh, well, it's worthless, but you can brag that you grew a 15-pound tomato,
Who
right?
else can say that?
Well,
Yeah.
the inside of a giant pumpkin is kind of mealy, too.
Yeah, I guess.
But that said, it still goes on today. And then additionally, the Pumpkin Club, of course, has an advanced grower seminar every year. We do it at a la carte. We feed everybody. The growers come from, well, we've had growers this year from Connecticut. We've had them from the West Coast, Michigan, New York, Pennsylvania, West Virginia.
And they
So-
all have different things that they bring to the table. And this is, I'm having a little flashback from our dress rehearsal, as I'll call it. There's differences in growing in California versus growing in Washington State versus New England, New York, Pennsylvania, Ohio.
It can be so. People ask me every year at the way off that we have at the garden, did you set the world record? Well, every year in the United States, there's a sweet spot somewhere, or it could be in Europe, because we're competing against the Europeans now.
What country
All
is
right.
the best? We didn't talk about this
Well,
before.
the guys in England, the Peyton brothers, there's 2 brothers there that have a greenhouse. They actually grow inside. They set the world record last year.
Wow.
All right.
Is inside growing allowed, or is that sort of like
it's all out there. Some people frown at it,
Yeah.
but there's no rule against it.
yet?
There's a Ruben Mendy from Spain that's a good grower. So there's all these people all over the world, but somebody's going to have the sweet spot. What the Pumpkin Club kind of hangs its hat on is it's perennially one of the strongest way-offs in the world.
That was also a pun.
Yes. So they rate you. We've had the world champion a few times, but they rate you as an organization on your top 10 biggest pumpkins. So they look at you at the end of the year against 100 other way-off sites in the world. They take your top 10 pumpkins and they average their weight together, and whoever has the highest weight by average wins the top 10 award. So the Ohio Valley Giant Pumpkin Growers have won the top 10 award. They just won it again this year. I think it's 9 or 10 times in the last 14 years.
Wow.
So that's kind of caliber. And we might not have the sweet spot that year, but I can tell you
got
we have a
consistency.
group of people that are determined.
To be in that top 10, yeah.
Yes.
They're not willing to
I mean, in
give
the
up
club,
their crown.
when we have our meetings, they're like, I don't care if I'm first or eighth. I want to be in the top 10.
All right.
Because if you can be in the top 10 in Canfield, that's respectable everywhere. Okay.
All right.
Like there's
Gold
way
standard.
Pardon. That is the gold standard. We have people that bring pumpkins from New York, and have their own way off close to home, but they'll bring their big one to Canfield because when they show, they want to show against the best.
Wow.
Right.
We kind of create it's very. Listen, I'm not giving you a hayride at the garden center. Okay. We're not. I don't have a bunch of food trucks. I'm not. We're growing pumpkins and we're
Right.
showing them.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're not messing around.
We're not messing around, and that day's about the growers. Okay, so we get a lot of people stop in, see what's going on.
So
Might
leave your
not
children
stay
at
for
home.
the whole thing.
It could get ugly. Leave your children at home.
Well, no, and
Get ugly.
we want the kids involved, and that's one thing the club as a whole has figured out is we get these young people to bring their first ever entry, and we give prizes all the way down to like 200 pounds. But we want those kids involved because, if we get the kids involved, that's more people showing at the fair.
Keeps it going.
It keeps everything, we're keeping that ball rolling. But we get these people come just to participate because of the caliber. We're almost, I would say, somewhat of a regional show. Okay, so that all plays into the whole grand scheme of things. But then again, like we mentioned in the seminar, we've been fortunate enough to have people come in and speak, and you talk about different areas. Alex Noel came in from Connecticut, I believe he lives, this year, and he's had 3 2,500-pound pumpkins in the last 2 years. So, we want to know what Alex is doing.
Yeah.
So Alex put a complete presentation on, but geographically, everybody's growing conditions are different. So he waters a way totally different than any of the rest of us, but he's on 16 foot of sand.
Oh,
So the water
soil's
drains
different.
really well. But we're on 8 inches of topsoil that's amended, and then we hit clay. So what you do in Ohio, or even different parts of Ohio, there's spots that are more sandy and grass. It all has to do with what you're dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
So we understand that, and that's kind of the great thing.
Now, I'm going to cut you off for a second.
Yeah.
Can we talking about lectures and learning? Can we talk about some other things now that are happening or not yet?
So to give you an idea of the scope of the learning, and then we'll go to the other things.
Okay.
So we used to go to international seminar. It's everywhere. Okay. And this will be a good lead in.
Spoiler alert.
Exactly. So one time I was in Niagara Falls. So the international seminars have been the West Coast. They've had them at Lambeau Field, Green Bay. They've had them in Belgium. They've had them in England, Orlando, Vegas multiple times. Just was in Utah.
Might have to take this podcast on the road.
Yeah, there you go. Utah would have been good. Yeah.
I love Salt Lake City. It's very clean.
Yep. So this giant pumpkin thing, for me as a garden center guy, has allowed me to lay my hands on some people that if I was just Tim Parks at Parks Garden Center, I might not lay my hands on. Because what's happened over the years is these people on the commercial ag side, there's no commercial research for giant pumpkins. But these guys are throwing their resources in to figure all this stuff out. So they'll get somebody to come in, a hired gun, to come in and speak, and they can't believe what's going on within the pumpkin community. So one year I've ran into a guy by the name of Bob Linderman, and to give you an idea what the pumpkin growers do and what their breadth of knowledge is, I sat down and had breakfast with him, and he was a PhD working for the U.S. government out of Corvallis, Oregon, and he was the chief of the mycorrhizal research in Corvallis. So I sat down, Bob, and I'm asking him some questions about and what mycorrhizae is, and we call it the rhizosphere. And what that amounts to is all that great stuff that happens in the top 8 inches of your soil in your garden or your flower bed, all the biology that's happening. Well, that's what he's promoting and researching. So I sat down, we're asking him questions about this, questions about that. Finally, he just stopped me. He says, Tim, he says, the questions you guys are asking me, we haven't even begun to do the research yet. He said, I speak all over the world. I don't have, he said, 15 minutes into my talk, usually everybody's nodding off. He said, I've never spoken to a group of people that understand soil biology as what these giant pumpkin growers do. And I thought, wow, that's really great stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. So that kind of gives you an idea what goes into the backside. So that's kind of exciting stuff. And how what that all relates to then down the road is it kind of gains some more momentum. Some other science people have gotten involved. And I could tell stories ad nauseum here about the science side. What's kind of really cool that's going on right now is, the Pumpkin Club's had a chip on its shoulder for years because the guys on the East Coast and the West Coast were always outgrowing us. We couldn't keep up. We didn't think we'd ever get there. So we finally, of course, have gotten there, as noted, through the top 10 average. But we still got a chip on our shoulder, You got to, if you're going to be competitive, you got to always keep a chip on your shoulder, right?
Yeah, got to stay hungry.
Yeah, we're hungry. So, and I've always told the guys, I said, listen, they're giving all the publicity to these people on the East Coast. They're giving it all to them on the West Coast. I said, if we go hard enough, at some point in life, they're going to have to come to Canfield, Ohio. The media.
I think we just lost our, we can put our passports away. Yeah. I feel like I know where this one's going.
So what happened here is a few years back, and this is about achievement and being recognized. And without the fair, none of this would have happened. Because none of these people would have gotten together.
You're being very humble, and we do. Okay. It is about the fair, but it's also about the hard work that you guys put into it.
It is.
Yes.
But it was a catalyst.
Sure.
Definitely.
So I got a phone call once, and it was kind of my bellwether moment. Guy was doing an article freelance for Smithsonian Magazine. And he wanted to write an article on the fall event and the way-offs, etc. And he called somebody on the East Coast. He said, well, I want to go to where they grow the biggest pumpkins in the world. Guy said, well, if you want to go there, you're going to have to go to Canfield, Ohio. So he called me up.
That's awesome.
And he had the Smithsonian sent their guy. It took 18 months to write the article. And
how many copies of this article do you have?
Well, I have a few. But that's a picture of the center spread there that they gave us, and it was a 6-page article. So it worked out. I thought, well, we're there.
Very cool.
Right? So this last year...
But wait, still a little hungry. Still a little chip.
We're hungry. And so this last year, one of our new directors on board the last couple of years, Bill Hendricks from Canfield, professional engine.
Bill's a great guy.
Bill's a real promoter.
And whatever Bill's into, he's into 110%. Yep. That's the best thing about Bill.
And he's on board with us as one of our directors, and he's got a lot of ideas. Well, he brought up the thought that, maybe our area still has a little bit of a chip on its shoulder. They have these pumpkin conferences all over the world. Why isn't it in Canfield, Ohio? I said, well, we got our hands full, Bill. Bill says, I'll
Hold
take
my
it
coffee.
on. Yeah, exactly. Hold my coffee. So long story short, Bill went ahead. We said, hey, go for it. If you want to get with those people. So Bill did a great job. Got with the county Bureau of
Yeah, talking about
tourism.
community here, it was the Mahoning County Convention and Visitors Bureau, the
Yep.
CVB.
Got
You
with
guys.
them. And it was funny because Bill got with them and said, okay, this is the situation. We'd like to get this. And he called the powers that be from the international organization. And they said, well, we're going to make a proposal to come to Youngstown, but we're going to involve our community.
Right.
And they'll help make the bid. And they'd never had an organization do that before.
Well, I think
All those
I think
places.
we're putting the cart before the horse. We know what you're talking about,
Okay.
but everyone else doesn't
All right.
really know what you're talking about.
So what we're talking about is they are going to be bringing the International Giant Pumpkin Growers Conference from the Great Pumpkin Commonwealth to Waypoint in Canfield next year. And I believe it's going to be the first part of March. So we'll be bringing
That's awesome.
200 to
Very
300
exciting.
people from all over the world to Canfield, Ohio to talk about giant pumpkins. Okay.
Very
Dream
cool.
come true.
So, yeah, for me, it's kind of like another feather in the cap.
Absolutely.
For Bill, I know it's huge for all the membership. They can't wait to get everybody here and show them our community. I think they're talking about arranging some tours to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame,
Yeah.
the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and that might even be part of the convention tagline is Legends.
Oh, I
and
like
Hall
that.
of Fame,
Because you guys
right?
are legends, and then you're going to hit.
Legends, rock and
well,
roll legends.
Maybe we need a Pumpkin Hall of Fame.
Well, there is such a thing.
Where's it at?
Not there's a Hall of Fame membership.
Oh,
There's
okay.
not a Hall of Fame. So,
Well,
long story short,
Wait, get my phone. Where's Bill?
yeah, exactly.
Let's call Bill.
They're going to be here, and it's going to be a great thing for the community. Again, and if you get back to the whole backside of this thing,
Canfield Fair.
Canfield Fair, right? And and those directors up there, they do such a great job.
They do.
I look at what they do and the time they spend, and I mean, they got a tiger by the tail, in my opinion.
I always
great
say
thing,
I've
and-
never seen a more dedicated board that is hands-on.
You have to look at this, and if you're in that position with any organization, and I've said this in the past, you have an obligation to the people that came before you, and you have an obligation to the people that are coming after you.
Wow.
Okay,
very
so
Yeah.
you got to take it serious.
And they do. They
And I think
genuinely
that's a
do.
serious bunch of guys up there, just like the pumpkin growers are serious. And, a lot of the other people, it's that passion for what they're doing. And, and again, it's that Midwestern stick-to-itives. We're going to be the
I think
best.
they call it
and-
grit.
I was gonna say
Yeah, it's that
Grit.
grit,
Word that
Yeah.
came to my head.
Yeah.
And it's funny because we've made friendships over the guy, with a lot of pumpkin growers over, and our guys from the Midwest, we call it the way we see it. And there's principle involved, and that's not always the way it is on the West and East Coast.
We only have a limited amount of time left, but we need your prediction. We need you to talk a little bit about what happened last year, because if we look at the records for pumpkin weights, last year was it was a learning for all of us, and I think through the news and everyone, we got to educate a little bit about growing cycles and weather. But then we also need your prediction for this year, what the season's going to look like and what the weights, how preseason is.
Is this the weather map? Do I do the weather now?
Yeah.
So
We're not that fancy. We're a little
Yeah.
fancy.
I would tell you, first of all, I believe it's Katie McMillan. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes.
Katie, nice young lady.
Callie, I believe.
Callie.
Oh, you're
That's
correct.
right. It's
Yeah.
Callie.
I was just knowing it was a C.
It was- yeah.
Yeah.
I'm getting old. Pardon me. Sorry, Callie. The young lady that's won the last 2 years. There was probably 2 years ago some pounds left in that pumpkin, but she put a lot of work into that, and recognition at her local fair is huge.
Sure.
And that's why she took that pumpkin to the fair, and I fully support her. I think she did what she should have
You
done.
would have made the same call.
I'd have made the same. One of my kids, I would have said, hey, if you want to take it to the fair and so all your friends can see it, that's a wonderful thing.
Definitely.
So that's what the fair brings to the table. Last year's entry was down about 1,000 pounds. There was issues weather-wise. And there are two things can happen. If you get wet early, plants can go into a stress, and then they don't set fruit as well, or they don't thrive.
I feel like that's what happens to me.
Yeah,
I get stressed and I don't thrive.
Yeah. Well, they say if you don't get enough sleep, you're not healthy, right? Well, you get stress will do that.
Like pumpkin.
Yes.
So they had stress early with a lot of rain, then turned around. When they finally took off, they started growing like crazy fast. All right. And that's what usually happens in August is when these things are growing, they'll grow 50 to 70 pounds a day.
It's crazy.
In today's world. When that's happening, if they're growing that fast, the skin can't expand fast enough, and they'll literally blow a hole in the end of it. And once that hole gets in there, it's done because it's going to rot.
Right.
So there's a ton of rot. So last year was kind of a confluence of both sides of the picture. It was too wet too early. Pumpkins didn't set till a little bit later. They started growing like crazy. A lot of growers lost their big one. And, I know Callie's dad, lost his biggest. There was a lot of other growers. So we had huge pumpkins at our way off, but the volume of entries were down because there were a lot of people.
If you noticed that difference.
Yes, it was at the fair, and thank God for the Lantermans. They're dedicated to that fair.
They make sure that pumpkin display.
Yep. If it looks like it's a little light, they'll go to the house and they'll bring more things to because people want to see the pumpkins, which is wonderful. But it was lighter entries at the fair last year, and at our way off, it was lighter entries. Not lighter, less entries.
I was looking for a pun, but I was waiting for it.
It was there. I just didn't pick it.
That's a good one.
So that was the case last year. Now, what's going to happen this year? I don't know. This weather pattern. I think we've had so much violent rain. We had 4 inches of rain in 3 hours about 3 weeks ago where we're
I remember
at.
that.
I mean, we can't have this.
There was lightning last night for no reason.
Yep.
Yeah.
So if we get the right weather.
When does the weather need to, when do we need to stabilize? When can it go wonky, but by May 15th, June 1st, at what point do we need to be?
If we're on track June 1st to the 15th, things will be very good.
Oh, okay.
They could be very good. Okay.
So that's sort of the window in which you can tell.
Because that's when the plant's building and you're getting ready to pollinate the first fruits, and you want that plant built before you really take off and start growing. Because the biggest amount of growth. So I'll give you some numbers. All right. Used to be if you could be 600 pounds by the 1st of August, that was pretty good. Then it was 8, then it was 9. Guys now want to be, if you can imagine, from the 15th of June being pollinated to the 1st of August, from this to 1,200 pounds the 1st of August.
Wow.
That's what they're looking for. Because then they want to try to get another 1,000 plus in August, and then try to get another 250, 300 in September, and wrap it up the first part of October. And that's how you get to world record size.
Okay.
Okay, so last year we were 2,700 pounds at our way off. The world record was 28 and changed, low 28s. But that's the kind of numbers that these guys are striving to get. Now, a cold snap can seriously reduce the end result. Like we had a cold snap in September last year. Okay? And that hurt some growers.
No, I think we were at the fair. Or that might have been the year before.
Yeah.
It was very cold.
Yeah.
Yep. So, I see, if we'll get going here and things are going to work out, we'll be respectable. I just hope we have a year where we can see more entries at the fair and at the garden center
Regardless
as well.
of the size, we just need
I
some
want to
stability.
see more people be successful.
Yeah.
Because if you're
that's
not,
huge.
sort of like you in the 80s, other things will
it
take
starts
precedence.
to wane. Yeah.
Right.
So I think that's that's hugely important. But we're starting to see a few new growers, and that's always good.
And if we wanted, is it too late to start now if we wanted to start?
That's what I was going to ask.
So when I leave here today, I'm going home to start my seeds.
So if we
Okay.
needed some seeds, could we perhaps stop by Parks Garden
Stop
Center?
by Parks Garden Center.
Do you have
Now-
seeds
now,
for sale?
Wait a minute. Don't everybody rush in.
Not all at once.
So here's what goes on. If you go onto the Giant Pumpkin Growers website, they have a store set up,
Okay.
and you could go on there and get seeds from very good pumpkins to astronomical,
And you pay accordingly, I'm guessing.
and you pay accordingly. Like last year's champion from the way off was Carl Heist, excuse me, and I think we sell his seeds. He donated 100 back to the club for fundraising. That's a great thing. The club has local sponsorship. We have people that just want to be involved because they think it's a great thing. But then they also fundraise quite a bit with seed sales. But that seed will sell for $100 this year. Now, if that seed continues, if it gets planted and it makes bigger pumpkins, it'll go on to an internet auction the next year. And then those seeds are substantially higher in price at that point.
Wow.
So
I think we may have to make the Black Diamond watermelon patch that we were going to put in
yes.
also into great pumpkin.
that
We have
yeah,
a
that's
goose
good-
behind. I don't know if you've heard the story. We have a goose behind our building that is nesting.
Okay.
It's been a whole thing. So ODNR was involved. A fence was built. We are protecting this goose. But we are hoping she is fertilizing the ground so then we can grow Black Diamond watermelons because
So
we
I have
all
to-
were in love with them last year.
I have to tell you a story.
All right, and
about
after the
geese.
story, Joe's going to throw us out.
Yeah.
Okay. So the deal on the goose thing was I have a lake.
Oh, I know. Your brother was the one who connected me with ODNR.
Okay. Well, I have a lake at my house where I used to grow my giant pumpkin. Okay. So in the fall, when the ice starts to freeze on all local swamps, the geese all pile in there. And then they go up to where I grow my giant pumpkins and loaf during the day. So I had one of the growers come to me, an older guy. I can't help myself. But he says to me, "Hey, what are you doing? You got all them geese on your pumpkin patch over there." I said, "Well, I decided this year I wasn't going to haul any manure. I've been taking shelled corn over and throwing it on my pumpkin patch, so when the geese fly in, they come up and eat the
So we're
shelled
100%
corn,
onto
and I don't
something.
have to put any manure on my patch." He said, "That's a great idea."
I love it.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Well, this has been great.
Yes. Thank you so much for
Tim,
Well-
coming again.
We could talk to you all day long
Well,
and tell
we could-
stories
I was going to say, you have great stories and you're a wealth of knowledge surrounding pumpkins
Well,
and more.
and more.
I'm
Competitive
happy
vegetable
to
growing.
have been asked to be here to share some of that with you. It's always fun. You guys do a great job. And, I say always, look at the Canfield Fair, and what would it be if we didn't have that fair in our community?
Oh.
Okay. And, you kid me about being the guy that maybe doesn't go to the fair every day.
No, I never
okay?
kidded you on that. You told me
Yeah.
when I said,
Yeah.
"Would you like to be on this podcast?" He said, "Okay, I will, but I don't go to the fair every day."
But to in my heart, I'm like, the fair brings so many other things to the community, okay, beyond just 5 days or 6 days or whatever we are now.
It's 6.
6 days, yes.
September
There's
2nd
some
through
great
7th,
shows coming this year. I see
2027.
I see some great shows.
Yes.
But it's a community event, whether you go every day or not. It brings so much to the table and does a lot for us.
It does. And speaking of great shows, that kind of tees us up for our next show. We're going to talk with the people who help bring the great shows.
To our grandstand.
Yeah, to our grandstand. So thank you for that. You're so good.
Perfect timing.
So good,
Perfect
Tim Parks.
timing.
Thank you
Yeah,
so much.
right.
Ella, thank you.
Yes, thank you. And we will see you all next time.
All right. Thanks,
All right.
guys.
Thank you.